Alright guys, now in this video I'm gonna show one position that I like to do. Of course, this one, kind of like one of the signatures move of my master Leo Vieira. Not just this, but a lot of moves that I'm showing here. Of course, there's a lot of this on my jiu-jitsu, and this is one of the details that I learned from him, how to break the grip. Of course, the Sumiga Ash is really traditional, everybody do, but the way that I break the grip, of course, I learned from him, and it's really effective, and it's another option to break the grip when your opponent grab the grip first, right? So look, when we have the hand fighting here, and the opponent has the grip, what I like to do, because the concept for the Sumiga Ash, of course, I have a lot of options to do it, but the idea is to cross the arm and reach the lat of my opponent, right? But to do this, it's just the most difficult part of the position, because you're not just gonna grab his arm and drag it, because the first reaction of the opponent is pull back, right? So what I like to do in that situation, look, he got the grips first, he got the lapel, he got the sleeve. So what I'm gonna do? First thing, I rotate, right? And I grab over. So you see, so he still has the grip, I have the grip, but now the idea, what's gonna do? The other hand, the hand that is free, I'm gonna grab the same arm, but now, at the same time, I'm gonna pull to cross, but I'm gonna just not pull to me the sleeve, break, let go. I'm not gonna break and reach, right? The idea is go like smooth over his arm, right? And reach for the back. So I don't need to bring back and go for the reach. So look, he grabbed the arm, I rotate, get the grip on top, switch. So now at the same time, I'm just gonna open my fingers and I'm gonna break the grip. So look, and I'm gonna get the grip here, right? The whole idea now is what? Once you grab, don't try to grab the back, right? Try to grab over the shoulder, right? The lat. Because the first reaction here of the opponent is to posture up, right? So the idea is what? Look at my shoulder, not my shoulder, my elbow. So the idea is to keep him down. Of course, he's gonna put the head up, right? He's gonna posture up. So the idea is we're gonna be on that situation here, right? So now when I have this situation here, always you try to keep as close as you can. So don't keep your hip far away, because that's gonna be hard when you wanna approach the position. So that's why you bring your opponent to you, so you pull to you and approach, right? So the steps when you approach is really important. So the idea, imagine that you want to put your foot, almost between his feet and the knee. A lot of people put outside, right? But for this one, I rather to keep this situation, right? So almost like your leg in, right? Not to the other side. I think it will be much easier to reach and get like really more effect, right? So look, you keep pulling to you. So now you step close and you're gonna throw your opponent to the other side. So once you finish here, what's the first thing that you're gonna do? So you still have control of the grip. So now you're gonna pull yourself up and you're gonna finish on top. Right? A lot of times when I have this situation, what I like to do, take advantage of this grip, slide my hand under, right? And reach the lapel. Because when I have this situation here, it will be really easy just to release, get the thumb inside, and go for the paper cut choke here. So it will be really easy. So it doesn't matter if you go behind, or you just go on top and put the weight and get the finish. So it's a really easy way, always when you finish with the takedown, to connect with this choke, because it's gonna be right there. So let's go again, switch up. So he get the grip. So I go over, switch. Now just open, release the other grip, cross and bring, right? Make sure that you get the lat and lock. You see how I lock? So now, a lot of times, or you step in, or you just step out, right? But the idea, when you approach, you put your hook inside of his leg here, the further leg, right? The one that you close. So look, you bring, put, and now you're just gonna do like a Sumiga Ash, but not over you, sideways, right? Out. Don't bring the opponent really on top of you. So look, approach, bring, and keep going, and keep the momentum to go over, 4 fingers behind his neck, and the one come inside, pass the arm over the head, over the neck, and now just put all your weight on your arm. So you see, switch position, and get the takedown, and get the choke, I'm sorry. So that's a really effective way to do the Sumiga Ash. Like I said, there is like 2 options to keep the knee outside and inside. This one I think is much effective when you keep the knee just like I showed. And the way to break the grip is an easy way and most effective way to get easier on that position. Because like I said, if you just want to get the cross grip and pull, the first reaction of the opponent is pull back. So it's going to be really hard. All right, now we're gonna start talking a little bit about body lock. For me, in my opinion, that's one of the easiest ways to finish it. And of course, I always look for the double leg, but something that, even if the double leg doesn't work really well, because of course, in a high level, everybody knows to defend really good. So when I feel my opponent start sprawling, I'm always gonna switch for a double leg, for a single leg, and the idea is always going up, because I never like to stop on my knees. So everything that I do, I always keep moving and switch for the body lock. I'm gonna try to explain that in a real situation here so you guys can understand. So look, always when I shoot, doesn't matter what kind of takedown I do it, with the lapel, with all the grips. So what I'm gonna do, I shoot, let's say my opponent like start defending, I switch for the single leg, I switch for the waist, and I get the body lock, right? So look, here is gonna be like a lot of situations. Some situations when I get the body lock, like right this one, on the side, I always will be looking for the back, or a lot of times I switch and keep in the front, because that's gonna give me a couple options. Of course, we're not gonna work details right now, but let's say when I have this one, it will be easy to approach and rotate to get the takedown like that. So sometimes when the guy defend, and he keep like front like in the same line, so I keep in the front. So I use my chest, my neck, my head to push, and I use the hooks to take him down. So a lot of times when I shoot and the guy try to like escape, turning the back, and I end up on the back. So, and I finish on that situation here. So a lot of times when I get this situation, I just use like the wrestling style to put pressure and make my opponent drop, right? Or when I get this situation here, I keep him moving and I keep the leg, making him out of balance, switch for the back. So, like I said, body lock is something that always gonna give you options, and doesn't really matter how you're gonna get the body lock. So in my opinion, like how I see it, it's gonna be 3 options. The first one is gonna be right in the front line, the same in front of your opponent. When you bring the hip to you, and you can use the inside trip, outside trip, and finish on top of the guy. A lot of times straight to the mount. A lot of times when you go to the body lock and you finish on the side, that's really used to use suplex, and a lot of times using your legs to take him down. Or the last situation, when you use the body lock right behind your opponent. So I try to explain really fast a couple options that we're gonna see in this series. But if you guys watch my fights, body lock is something that always in my game. Of course, my plan A is always a double leg, but if it doesn't work, I never finish on my knees, because when you drop on your knees, you pretty much can't do many variations. So always when I'm climbing up, I use the legs and the hip once I lock the legs, once I lock on the hip, I'm really safe, and that's when I start doing my finishes and how I finish the with the body lock takedown, right? So now we're gonna break it down little by little, a couple of these variations, and let's do it. Alright guys, now in this video I'm gonna show a little bit of one takedown that I like to do a lot. Gonna use the, let's say I use the suplex, but the most how I reach this situation is from the single leg but without grips, because a lot of times when I use the body lock is when I reach my opponent without using the grips, because I think it's the guy I don't have the control of the upper body, so my opponent can turn too easy and he ended up turning it back to me, and that's how I always end up getting the body lock. So I remember one fight that I reached exactly this one was against Herbert Santos in the semi-final of the Worlds, I think 2018. We were like really far, and I was like measuring and getting like the right distance, and I saw like one right timing when he stepped the foot a little bit like too much, and then when I shoot, right? So when I shoot for the outside leg, so when I saw I shoot, and I end up, you see, almost like to the side. So I don't like to stay in the front of my opponent, because I avoid sprawl like that. Because if he sprawl, if he push down, he's not gonna be on top of me, right? So that's why always when I shoot, I try to go outside of, I try to change angles, because that's gonna be easier for me to avoid his sprawl on my neck, on the back of my neck. So when I shoot, I reach for the leg first, right? So look, I try to grab his leg, and at the same time, I pull the leg to me, but I pull myself in with the shoot. So it's not just one, right? So look, of course, I shoot, but I bring myself in, and then I switch, and right away, you see, it's like 1, 2, 3. Because I grab the leg, the second step, I grab over, and then the third one, I go for the hip, right? So as soon as I get here, I keep moving, because the idea is always go for the body lock. But for this one, remember, I couldn't go straight to his back, clear, because he has his arm here, so he was defending. And I remember one important thing that a lot of people didn't realize was this. When I got this, we both were going out of the bounds, right? So imagine this line was the yellow mat. So I saw that. So it's important, just when you're fighting, you can't just think about one thing. You gotta be thinking about everything. So I knew if I keep pushing here, I had a really good shot. I had a really good opportunity, could change the fight. But if I keep pushing a little bit more, we would be out of the bounds, and I would miss a great opportunity. So I remember when I got this, I lock, and I saw, so the first thing that I did was rotate, because I have the body lock, I have the control here with my head, so don't stay too much on your lower back, so approach your hip, and then you change the direction. You change the direction. So you see, so now you can choose where you're gonna finish the takedown. So when I have the position here, so what you can do, so you see how my hip is far, so here is not good. Always when you have this position, so look, you lock not on the ribs, but on the hip, and you drop. But when you drop, step closer, and you see how your hip connect on his thigh. Because now it'll be really easy for you to lift, and then just use your leg. You see how I use my thigh? So look, I lift, and then I just use my thigh and finish it with the kind of like the suplex. But of course, in Jiu-Jitsu, the rules are really different of wrestling. So you're not able to do the suplex going over the head, because if you do that, you can be disqualified. So you can, what I like to do for the body lock, for the suplex, I just lift, and you have the option, or just to use your foot to push his leg, right? Or you can use, just making him light and use your leg behind his leg. So imagine that you're doing this with your leg and making him out of balance. But you're gonna push the leg in and you're gonna push with your head his shoulder. So it will be easier to take him down, right? So let's do again. So look, when you see the opportunity, you shoot. 1, 2, 3, right? And switch. You see, look around. Make sure that you are inside of the bounds, right? Don't stay on your lower back. Approach. Make sure your hip is like in, right? And always make sure that your hip is under his hip. So when you approach, it will be really easy for you to lift your opponent. So here, I'm not using my arms at all. I just using my hip and my legs. So it doesn't matter how heavy he is, if you get in the right spot, it will be really easy for you to lift your opponent, right? And then you have two options, or to use your foot to kind of like kick the foot, or just lift and use your thigh, right? So look, lift, and then you see how you're gonna finish straight in the side control and get like a good takedown. So like I said, you have to fight smart, not hard. So make everything easier to finish in a good position. All right, guys, so let's keep working this, the body lock finishes, right? The series of body lock. So this one's gonna be another variation, and this one is always when I can reach. Most of the time it's gonna be single. Most of the times actually it's gonna be double leg, but a lot of times I reach that from singles too. But singles, most I go to the side. So when I reach double leg straight, when I can touch both legs and I feel my opponent defending really well doing sprawls, that's when I can start climbing up and locking my hands, but I keep in the same line, my opponent in front of me. So then when I have like a couple variations with the body lock in the same line. So I'm not gonna talk too much about the double leg, but it's gonna be more about the body lock. But like I said, always when I have the double leg here, I have to keep the distance, right? I have to read my opponent, be aware where I am on the mat, because it's not just about shoot, but when you shoot, you wanna have like a really effective takedown. So you don't wanna get a perfect shot and the referee say like stop. Or if you're competing, the referee say stop. If you're in the gym, you're on the wall, so be aware about these details. So when I have this, what I'm gonna do? Always change level and shoot, right? So what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna change level. A lot of times, if his hands are too slow, I switch, right? I'm making him work a little bit. I'm making him hand fight. I'm making him push back. And then I'm gonna change level and then shoot. Boom. Right? You see how my strength comes from the back leg. So you make sure, don't stay on your lower back. That's gonna be a really bad posture. So make sure that you keep on that position. So you're able to touch the mat and then you're gonna shoot, right? So like I said, clear the space, change the level and go, right? Of course, we're not working like the double leg right now. And let's say when the opponent like defend and he starts sprawling and start defending, look, and he starts stepping back, and I feel I'm losing his leg. So what am I gonna do? Like I said, I never stop with my knees. So I start going up, right? And from here, I start climbing until I get this situation. But if my opponent defends really well, he never gonna let me go to his back. So he's gonna push my head here. Exactly, so we're gonna be on that situation here. So he defend, I'm not able to body lock and go to his back, but I was able to lock my hands and keep in the same line, right in front of him, right? So when I have the situation here, with my hands under his arms, are almost like 100% that I'm gonna get the takedown. Because you see, this arm, even if he try to like pull the arm back or take the arm out, so what I like to do in this situation, I always bring him to me, so I shake a little bit and I get like a better grip. Because now what I'm gonna do, I use my chest to push against his chest and my head, and then I bring his hip to me. So now I'm gonna choose what I'm gonna do. So I can use the inside trip, right? But what I like to do in this situation, I think is much safer than you put your knee in a weird position, in a weird angle, that you can even see what you're doing, than just when you bring the outside leg and you see, you making him step closer to you. So now you use the other leg outside. So now you stop. So you can either pull his leg to you, or you can just stop, put your foot on the mat and push him again, right? So you finish on the half guard. Or you can just, when you have this situation here, what I like to do, when I have the body lock, I bring him to me, I step closer. When I see he's almost down, I take my leg out and I finish straight on the mount. It's a really, after you get the position, the body lock, it's really simple how you're gonna finish. Because the hardest part is to get the body lock. After you get a good shot. So it's all the concepts that I said when you have no grips, right? So after you get the body lock, you can pretty much choose what you're gonna do, right? So let's do it again. So get the distance, right? Making him work. I change level, I shoot. Pay attention on my feet, right? I shoot and how just naturally when you push and keep walking and you bring the hip to you and you see how my chest pushes his body, his hip I bring to me. Imagine that I pull in the hip and I push in the chest. So that's exactly what I'm doing. So, and always, even when I'm doing this, I'm walking towards him. So it's gonna be hard for him to keep the balance. So a lot of times when I get this position and I hug and I finish here, it's the same thing. So I bring him to me and finish on the takedown. A lot of times I go straight to the mount. So, like I said, the hardest part is to get the body lock in this front, because most of the times when he tries to defend, he ends up giving the back or the side. And you're still gonna have the body lock, but I think in my opinion, it will be easier for him to defend from the back or from the side. But when you body lock from the front, it's almost impossible to defend. So that's why I like to use this variation a lot. All right, let's keep working the series of body lock. So now let's work on a situation that we can work, of course, two variations that always work together, but it's something that is really important. Always keep your opponent work, always keep your opponent busy. So I see this one a lot of people using wrestling, and I started using in BJJ, and it's been working really well for me. So like I said, we're gonna shoot, and the idea is gonna be always take my opponent down, but if he defends, my way to counter is always climbing up and finishing the body lock. So, does it really matter? Like I said, always when I have grips, will be easier for me to get single legs and double legs and finish with the takedown. But a lot of times when I have like wrestling style, when I work in the distance, a lot of times when he's defending, I end up getting the body lock. So let's say when I shoot like double leg or single leg, whatever. So I set him up. If I want to get this leg, I always make him step. I hand fight. Always I try to read my opponent. Like I always said, pay attention around. If you're in a competition, walk if you're inside the area. Don't miss a good opportunity. If you're training with your partners, don't shoot really close off the wall. So you're just going to spend like a good shot. So set up, drop it, and shoot. Right? A lot of times when I get this situation, you see my opponent is pushing, he's defending already. So I'm not gonna finish here. So right away, never stop on the knees. So start climbing up. First thing, I hold the hip and then try to get the hands together. You see, most of the times I finish here. So when I get this situation, I don't stop, because for me, that's a really common mistake when you get a good position like that and we stop, because here, that's when he starts defending and he got a good advantage to escape. So look, when I get this situation here, first thing that I like to do always is what? Keeping him moving, and during this step, I try to get the right timing to block. So imagine when you're making him step, when his foot is out of the bar, I push, right? So of course, I do that with the speed. So look, he's walking, then I make him go down just with a little foot sweep, right? Because I'm making him out of balance, and my idea is always what? Making him drop on his hands. Now he's out of balance, and then I can switch for a seat belt, and then work a back take, or just keep my weight on him. If he put the knees on the mat, is what I want, because it's gonna be considered a takedown, and will be easy for me to attack, and he's gonna be in a bad spot, right? But another situation is what? When I get the body lock, of course, doesn't really matter how you get the body lock, but the idea is always, we're gonna do a little bit faster so you guys can see. So I shoot, then I finish on that position. So look, now it's really important. It's in this situation, I think it's the most effective one and the less effort. So it doesn't really matter your weight and your size, but if you get the right technique, the idea is gonna be what? It's gonna make him to carry his whole body weight and my body weight. So sooner or later, he's gonna get tired and he's gonna do a mistake and he's gonna drop on his knees and I'm gonna get what I want. So look, when I lock the body lock, so look, my hands are in the same side, right in the middle of his line, his body line here. But I don't want that. So look, make sure that you wrap around his hip, right? So hold around his hip. And the idea is to grab your forearm around his hip. So imagine that you have the belt line here, my forearm gets right here, right? So the idea here, now what's gonna do? So imagine that you don't wanna use this foot on the mat, right? Of course you can use, but the idea, imagine that you have this foot out of the mat, and you see how I use the weight. So no matter what, it's gonna be how you're gonna take your opponent out of base, right? Because imagine the idea is gonna be my weight on his back and he's trying to get like a good base. So sooner or later, he's gonna drop on his knee, on his elbow, and I'm gonna get what I want. So look, I body lock, I turn, right? So make sure that your forearm goes around, and you see how I lock my hand and lock my forearm here, my wrist on his hip. So now the idea is just to use my chest here in his lower back and making him walk. So you see, it's hard for him. I'm not putting effort. So now I keep losing until he puts like both the hands. So now you choose. If you're gonna go straight to the seat belt, I think that would be the safest way. And then make sure that he keeps the knees on the mat to establish the 2 points and get the takedown. Or if you wanna like just go straight to the back, because he's gonna put the hand a little bit further, so you're gonna have a lot of room. So you can go straight to the back and finish with both hooks. So let's do that in a different angle, just for you guys to see. So I see who uses that really well. It's kind of like the style that Khabib uses in all his fights, because that's how you make your opponent really tired. So look, imagine here I don't need to take my foot out, but if you have a hard time to find, imagine that you don't use this foot. So look, your opponent gonna draw. After he draw, you can choose what you want to do, or body lock, or just straight to the choke, or it's gonna be pretty much up to you. But I think that's the most effective way and the less effort that you can use when you reach the body lock. So that's the option. And the first option, one more time. But for the first one, you can get the body lock and just try kick your opponent. The idea is always keeping him move, making him tap, and then stop the foot sweep, and then choose what you want to do, or back take, or just finish on the seat belt and go from there, right?